Ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Are you getting the best performance out of your cattle? We'll talk animal health and nutrition with a panel of experts from Alltech.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. Beef cattle producers understand the importance of keeping cattle healthy, and a herd health program is an essential part of any farm or ranch management program. A good year-round program can improve the efficiency and profitability of your operation. So today, we're going to focus on this important issue and talk about some of the tactics and products producers can use to help ensure healthy, productive cattle. Joining me now is a great panel of experts. In fact, to begin with, we have Randy Asher. He's the regional manager with Alltech. Randy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I graduated from Texas A&M University. I grew up west of San Antonio, about 75 miles. I've been associated with the beef cattle industry and the dairy industry my whole life. Before coming to work for Alltech, I had a consulting business for 18 years. So.
Fantastic. Glad to have you with us, Randy.
Thank you, Kevin. Good to be here.
And coming to us from North Country, Brian Dorsey, Dr. Brian Dorsey, large animal vet. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, grew up on a cow-calf operation in northeast Nebraska, went to South Dakota State and then Iowa State to veterinary school. Ended up in southwest Minnesota as my first job out of school, doing mixed animal medicine. So we have a clinic, has 15 veterinarians, and so we do all species of livestock production, and so we have been in Worthington for the last 13 years.
And rounding out our panel, we have Dr. Matt Hersom from the University of Florida. Dr. Hersom, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm an associate professor and extension beef cattle specialist at the University of Florida. Originally from Iowa, degrees from Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and then I've been in Florida for the past 13 years, servicing the great beef industry in Florida.
There's a lot of mother cows down there, aren't there? So guys, I know I've heard you guys talk about this three-legged stool that begins with the cow, includes the calf, and also includes what happens at the feed yard level. So let's start at the first leg, that cow portion. What can we do to set that cow up to deliver a healthy, vigorous calf?
Now, Kevin, I can grab that one first. Now, I think as a nutritionist, nutrition is probably one of those key things when we start talking about last trimester preparation for that cow. Making sure she's got enough energy, protein in her diet, she's getting enough to eat. That way as she approaches parturition of that calf, that she's got all the energy stores that she needs to get through delivering that calf, start the colostrum flow, and start that lactation that's key to getting that calf off to a great start.
You know, you talk about colostrum, and I know that's critically important, making sure that calf gets colostrum in the first couple of hours. What are the kinds of things we can do nutritionally to make certain that we set that cow up to provide the highest quality and most amount of colostrum we can?
You know, again, I think making sure she's got all the groceries that she needs. That is probably the primary concern, is making sure she's got enough to eat. Energy, protein to make all those antibodies, and then mineral nutrition is a key component of making sure she's got good and high quality colostrum to deliver to that calf during that first 24-hour period.
Yeah, and that's a great point. The longer I'm a veterinarian, the more I see the impact of good nutrition on calf health and colostrum quality. So getting that calf off to a great start certainly makes my vaccination program that I've developed for her to maximize those antibodies going into that colostrum. If I've got a cow that just doesn't have the nutrition set just exactly where it needs to be, we've really set that calf back.
Compromise the health of that calf for the rest of its life.
For the rest of his life,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, and you talk a lot about mineral. I want to spend a couple of minutes on that because I've always heard that mineral program is so critically important to that cow. Tell us your thoughts about that.
Well, one of the things we don't usually think about too much is at parturition, we've got vitamin E levels down, zinc levels have dropped, neutrophil capacity of that cow's gone downhill greatly. She needs absolutely a full complement of all trace elements, and especially copper, because while she's gestating, her copper stores are going to the calf's liver. So keep making sure that trace element nutrition is where it needs to be is vitally important. And then of course, we can go right on into the immune system and looking at everything involved there as well.
Absolutely, yeah. What's your sense of the role that minerals play on an immune system?
Well, I think first of all we got to make sure we're getting that mineral supplement into those cows first and foremost, because if we're skimping on minerals during that last period, like Brian said, we are setting everything back. And so, having those minerals available and making sure that the cow's taking them in, but then they are available for metabolism for herself to set her up, and then transferring those to the calf. So when that calf hits the ground, he's got some adequate stores of minerals then to start. All his physiological processes are absolutely important.
Go ahead.
That's interesting, because when I'm out troubleshooting a scours problem or an ammonia problem on some farms, you'd be surprised how many mineral deficient calves we're dealing with. And then as we start to go back and address that mineral deficiency that we got to get back to the cow, man, our health really comes on, and it really makes a big difference for those guys.
That's really helpful. Let's talk about, so go ahead.
Well, I was going to make a comment on colostrum quality too. Using something like biomoss to improve IgG levels in that colostrum, and making sure we've got a full complement of immunoglobulins that we need in that colostrum is vitally important as well. So between minerals and looking at colostrum quality and overall health, I think we can get a lot more accomplished sometimes than we think we can.
And my sense, you said a key thing. It's not just about having the minerals available, making sure they get inside the cow, right? And so make sure they're in a palatable enough format that we're actually getting consumption of what we're purchasing and putting out in front of them, right?
Yeah.
And the proper ratios.
Yeah, that's the other
not
thing.
having antagonistic reactions.
Yeah. Let's talk about stress for a minute. Calving is a stressful time, both for the cow and calf. What role does stress play in long-term health?
Stress is one of the things, I'll jump in, that's a direct impact on health. We see stress, cortisol levels in that cow rise, and she just doesn't put the quality of IgGs into that colostrum like we'd like sometimes. And stress can be lots of things. It can be weather, it can be predators. The ranchers I work with out west, they've got coyote problems. That's a form of stress. In our farms in Iowa, weather and mud can be a stress. So we see some seasonal stress. And so anything we can do to minimize that certainly reduces the chance that our cow will pass something pathogenic onto our calf and have problems. So
Yeah, I look at stress as almost a tax on the system with no return. That it's just dealing with stress is just sucking nutrients up either from the cow or in the calf, and those nutrients then aren't available to go for growth, and that's really what we're after. And the calf, once it hits the ground, is hit the ground running, start growing, because we need an adequate weight per day of age on that calf before weaning, and those first 30 days are critical to establishing that.
Yeah, I've been in some presentations that suggest in your first 56, 60 days of life, we want that calf to double in weight. We want that calf to get off on a really solid start from a growth standpoint, consumption standpoint. So stress is critically important. Do you have any thoughts about how we can minimize stress?
I think planning the work and working the plan is kind of what my advice to my producers on the farms is let's plan for the worst case scenario. So let's put up some extra bedding. So let's scatter those cows out, when we need to, when we have the opportunity to. Let's bring them in and make sure that our barns are clean, our calving pens are clean, so that we're not putting more undue stress on them by poor planning on our part. So
you've mentioned several things there, and my first mind goes to scours. I mean, when you have baby calves, typically you have scours at some level, hopefully not a big one, but what are some things we can do from a management and nutrition standpoint to reduce scours in those young calves? Randy?
Well, bedding, Brian made a great point. Clean bedding, absolutely a must if you're in a confined area. And the other thing is that overcrowding situation that we run into from time to time. So, from a management standpoint, those are great. And from a nutritional standpoint, like these guys said, great mineral program, and maybe the use of something that'll stimulate the immune system like biomoss would, and grab those gram-negative pathogens.
You bet. Yeah, go ahead.
We've had great success using biomoss in our cow mineral, pre-calving cow mineral, just so that to reduce the exposure from that vertical exposure from that cow to that calf. And so those tools are out there and placed appropriately. They make great strides in reducing scours.
Yeah, and I think Brian made a great point, is working the plan and being proactive. Unless this is the first cow you've ever owned, you've gone down this path before, so be prepared for it. And part of that means getting products into the cow prior to calving, and so she's ready to deal with that stress, and has the system set up for the calf then to be successful.
Set ourselves up for success, right?
You know, about the first 5 months of life, they're not really fully immunocompetent.
Right.
And if you think about the gut as a functioning immune system, which we do, you know, the lamina propria, Peyer's patches, et cetera, there's a lot of things going on. So as long as we can keep digestive tract integrity at its best, nutritionally or from a management standpoint, doing certain things, that first few months of life, we're ahead of the ball game later on down the road.
Yeah, and we want to talk a little bit more about biomass and some elements later in the life cycle after a few moments. Still ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, our panel weighs in on the Veterinary Feed Directive and how it impacts producers. Plus, a closer look at a product that can help keep calves healthy and thriving. Stay with us. We'll have more right after this.
Give your cattle a healthy start. And keep them healthy with biomass. Find out how Alltech can help you protect your cattle and your legacy. Find out more at biomass.com.
Blaze a trail to Phoenix, Arizona and the 2018 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. It's the cattle industry's biggest convention with education, networking, and fun. Plus, you can check out the huge NCBA Trade Show, outstanding entertainment, and more. Don't miss the 2018 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show in Phoenix, January 31st through February 2nd. Visit beefusa.org for more.
Want more profit out of your pasture? Then here's our 2 cents on using parasite control to make some dollars. In a trial of calves, Long Range outperformed Sidectin and Safeguard dewormers combined by as much as an extra 40 pounds. Yeah, that's a lot of extra profit, and that's why it pays to treat cattle with Long Range. Do not treat within 48 days of slaughter. Not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment. You can't afford another season without Long Range.
Welcome back to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen as we hear from the experts at Alltech on the latest strategies for ensuring cattle get the proper nutrition. Guys, let's talk about the topic on the minds of so many people, and that's the Veterinary Feed Directive that was implemented the first of the year. I just ask, how is that impacting producers and what options do they have?
Yeah, I'll jump in with that. You know, to some producers it's become kind of news, but realistically this has been coming down the pipe for 18 months, 2 years. And so in our practice we've been aggressively getting prepared for this for the last 18 months and finding ways to help our producers document the great job that they do. Because I think as an industry, on the beef side of things, we do a great job of stewarding the antimicrobials that we've been tasked with to use in production food animal to treat disease. And it's moving those producers to get to document that great job that I find most of my farms do, is the shift. And so it's more regulation, it's more paperwork, but it's not anything that has really changed the practices on a lot of the farms that I work with. We just got to do a better job of documenting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, from another practical aspect, it gives some of these ranchers an opportunity to reevaluate what they're doing. That do we actually truly need these antibiotics in our feeds, or have we been doing it just because we've always done it in the past? And if that's the case, then we can encourage them to either to reevaluate the use of these antimicrobials or look for alternatives that are out there that are really viable alternatives that make things work.
Those are the conversations I've been having on a lot of farms as we've done this, is why are we doing it, and are there other things that we can be doing that would do better or do the same job using different technology?
There you go. What are our options now that we're doing it?
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, and I think it's forcing people to ask that question. What are our other alternatives and options? Not just hit the easy button, something we've done for years and years, but really explore, you know, how we can prevent some of these issues from the onset, right?
Yeah.
You know, I know we can. Today we have measurement technology to measure so many things, and I guess I would ask you, what is research telling you, Dr. Newsom, in terms of the kinds of things that we can measure in getting that calf set up for a healthy life?
I'm going to let Randy jump on that one
Sure.
first, because Alltech's got some neat technology. that you
Yeah,
can talk about.
actually we do. Alltech has a nutrigenomics lab, and of course, everybody knows we've looked at the bovine genome for a while now, and we can actually use that microarray, or that gene chip as we know it, and we can take something like nutrition that Doc's doing and see what genes we're upregulating and downregulating within the animal. So it gives us an idea of how we can tweak things, put maybe some different combinations of things together to change different facets of animal production. So it may be immunological, it may be looking at average daily gains and overall health, feed conversion, feed efficiency, things of that nature. So I mean, it's really exciting. It's probably the neatest thing I've seen come along in our industry in a long time.
It's pretty neat to be able to
help
measure
us.
that.
And the timing with the VFD now
Right.
really brings it into its forefront and why we really need it, and put that focus on nutrition and gut health.
So as we talk about nutrition and gut health, we got to talk about biomass, right? And so I'm curious, what is the research telling us relative to the advantages of biomass?
You know, in Florida, we've done some research with biomass, sponsored by Alltech, a couple different years, utilizing it in freshly weaned calves during a backgrounding period, comparing that to the use of antibiotics to get those calves through that weaning stress, particularly when we're weaning in Florida in September. It is hot, it is muggy, and it is muddy, and so we've got a lot of stress on those calves. And biomass, compared to the antibiotic that we would normally routinely use, 1 year was superior to the use of the antibiotic, and the next year was just as good. So what that tells us is the biomass product is a comparable product to a routine antibiotic, and so it tells us it's probably a viable replacement in a lot of situations for using an antibiotic and not having to go through a VFD process.
That's amazing. So tell us how biomass actually improves gut health in cows and calves. I mean, how does it work?
Well, but the gram-negative pathogens, for starters, are attracted to this mannose sugar, if you will. So it locks up with a gram-negative pathogen. Now that pathogen's not attaching itself to the gut wall, absorbing nutrients, giving off toxins. It's going out the tail end of the animal in the feces. And that was really the hallmark, or the trademark of biomass, was this gram-negative pathogen binding, which it does do. What's interesting is what it truly does for the immune system as well. So we've got improved immunoglobulin status. For example, we talked about the gut as a functioning immune system. So we're trying to keep those villi healthy in the gut so we can maximize nutrient absorption at all levels. That's primarily what we're getting accomplished. And we're, with that healthy gut, we've got an immune system that's really working. It's like Matt said, we could take the antibiotics out of the diet in the work that he did and use biomass and come out ahead on performance parameters.
That's really exciting, and as a matter of fact, we have a short video from an operation that has experienced success with biomass. Let's take a look.
I'm Brandon Oliver with Blackhawk Farms. We are in the Blackhawk community of Western Kentucky. This is a family operation that has gone on multiple generations. We have multiple breeds in our cattle, but they're heavily Angus genetics, and then we breed them all to a Wagyu bull. So we're trying to get some higher marbling type genetics. We're going for a premium product because the customers that we deal with want quality, and that has been our goal through the whole process. Food safety is a very high priority for us. Whenever we started this feeding process, we knew that there were going to be potential issues with pathogens or bacteria within the animal. The reason that we use the biomass is because we're trying to get bad bacteria out of the cattle. The slaughterhouse loves our cattle coming in because they are as clean as anything they've ever had. We're trying to set up everything for a perfect product at the end.
So the folks at Blackhawk Farms mentioned the importance of food safety and talked about providing their processor high quality, safe product. What impact have you seen that is extended on to the packer level?
You know, one of the things that they mentioned there is the packers' desirability for their cattle based on pathogen load. So biomass is designed to go after those pathogens like Salmonella and E. coli that have really been the biggest impact on the food safety piece of what we do in the beef industry. And some of that, you know, begins all the way back as a baby calf and pays off at the end there when those calves go to slaughter at the packer.
And Randy, we were talking a little bit about colostrum and the importance earlier. What does your research tell you about some of the benefits at that colostrum level?
Well, Kevin, there's over 700 research trials on biomass. That's multi-species, that's across the board. There's been a tremendous amount of research done. And you know, we've been sitting here talking about what's going on in the cattle industry, and genetics has improved over 25 years, and the plane of nutrition maybe hadn't kept up with it. It's a lifelong process. And some of the research that's there on biomass going back to colostrum quality is looking at immunoglobulin status, obviously, but then there's some really good research looking at calves after they've been vaccinated that came out of cows that were fed biomass, and their counterparts that came out of cows that were not fed biomass, and looked at those titer levels, and the calves that had biomass had higher titer levels 100% of the time. So we know we're doing something to digestive tract integrity, we're helping with colostrum quality, and we're doing something for the immune system all the way around.
And it really does sound like we've got some lifelong benefits for this process.
It truly
right?
is lifelong. Yeah.
It's fantastic. Well, we're going to talk more about herd health and nutrition when we come back. Don't go away. We'll have more with our panel right after this.
Give your cattle a healthy start. And keep them healthy with biomass. Find out how Alltech can help you protect your cattle and your legacy. Find out more at biomass.com.
Long live the courageous, the tenacious, the ones who push forward and give back. Long live the greater good, the helping hand, and long live the truck built to outlast them all. Ram, America's longest lasting pickups.
Welcome back. We're focusing today on the latest strategies and technologies for cattle health and nutrition with the experts from Alltech. So we've talked a lot so far today about setting that cow up on a nutritional plane and providing that calf with what he needs to boost both his immunity and growth. Let's talk about the third leg of the stool at the feedlot level or feed yard level. What are your recommendations there? Are there some shortcuts producers are making that are costing us some money in the feed yard downstream?
I think one of the opportunities that I see for my producers is to spend a little more on a receiving mineral up front. We have a mixed bag of mineral status in the calves that we feed in our yards, and so having that highest quality mineral package in those first 45 days where we're bringing those calves in up on feed certainly helps us address any deficient situations we may have in individuals, but it also helps those calves respond better to my vaccine, deal with stress, do all those things. And so I think that as an opportunity to pay off later in the feeding period is that starter mineral package.
Yeah, I think, remembering that those calves when they hit the feed yard are sometimes having a limited amount of intake, and getting everything you can in every bite is important. And so making sure that mineral program is absolutely top notch, and then everything else along with that ration is A-OK is an important thing to start them off right and avoid digestive issues and all the other health issues those calves are going to face when they arrive at the yard.
So mineral's not a good place to cut corners and cut costs is what
Absolutely
you're saying as it relates to health and performance long term. And one of the things that as I talk to feed yards, they tell me sometimes they just don't have the information they need to even know how to start a calf. What are the kinds of questions that you think backgrounders or feed yards ought to be asking about calves as they get them into the feed yard?
I think I'm with these guys, they definitely need to ask about the plane of nutrition those calves have been on. That makes all the difference in the world. Brian brought up a good point. What if they've been in a drought? What if the water table's changed? What if copper and zinc levels in the water and in the grasses has changed? what's been the health of the cattle prior to coming to the feed yard? Have they been in confinement? Have they been treated once, twice? Have they been on antibiotics? Have you had to really work with them? You know, those are things that a cattle feeder needs to know as those calves are coming into the feed yard.
So let's take it back to the biomass product for just a minute, Randy, and what role does biomass play in prepping those calves for their transition to the feed yard?
Well, and obviously, if they're on a really good plan of nutrition, we're even better off. Okay. But we're back to digestive tract integrity. You know, we're going to put those calves of mats in Florida on a truck, and they're going to stay on a truck over 24 hours getting the Texas Panhandle more than likely. And their old rumen bugs are dying, their gut's dead, they're dehydrated. Anything we can do prior to putting them on that truck, something like biomass, for example, and keeping that digestive tract healthy, is going to help us on the other end when we get them at the feed yard.
Yeah, we got some research data from that trial that they were on biomass, put them on a truck for 24 hours, brought them back, and they were still on their same treatments, and biomass was, again, as effective as putting them on an antibiotic for that next 14 days after they had that shipping event. So it's great to set them up with biomass, and it's great to have it there ready and waiting for them when they hit the yard again.
You betcha.
And health-wise, I mean, I love a calf that starts on feed, and so they're going to respond better to my vaccines. I'm going to pull less of those cattle. I mean, it just strings all the way through that whole feeding period for that calf.
Well, and as I think about it, you know, when you tie together things like the VFD, the increasing cattle supply, the fact that feeders going to be able to be a little pickier about the kind of cattle they purchase, that really it's going to behoove all of us to make certain that we have the best, most healthy calves that are going to go on and perform for the next segment of the cycle. And so I guess I'd ask the final question, and maybe start with you, Dr. Ursulum, of what recommendations, in summary, do you have for folks to improve both the performance and the profitability of their operations?
I think, Kevin, remind our producers that it's starting with the cow first. That is our basic production unit, and so we've got to treat her right, give her the resource that she needs to grow that fetus, grow that calf, drop that calf on the ground and give it a good healthy start. And so that's a nutrition program, that's adequate minerals, and then it's using some other technologies to make sure that we've created a scenario for success for the cow, the calf, and the producer.
That's outstanding. What would you add, Dr. Dorsey?
I'd add communication through all segments of our industry. I think is certainly important, whether you're a feeder buying calves or you're a mama cow herd selling to a feedlot, asking those questions. Hey, how'd my calves do for you last year? Hey, how was calving season this year before we go buy those calves? So communication and surrounding yourself with experts. Grab a veterinarian, grab a nutritionist, and ask those questions and say, hey, what can I be doing to improve my profitability? Because each situation is going to be a little different, and where you are regionally in the country is going to change what's important to you. But seeking out those experts and finding ways to communicate through all segments of the industry is important.
Putting together a top-notch team. And
Absolutely.
What would you add, Randy?
I think these guys have pretty well touched on everything. I would just go back to looking at what we have available to us today in our industry in terms of nutrition, immunology, growth parameters, things like organic trace elements like Bioplex and Cellplex, utilizing biomass throughout the lifetime of an animal. And we're not killing these steers at 1250 anymore.
That's right.
We're
taking them big 1,400, 1,500 pound end weights, aren't we? And putting more stress on those
putting
cattle
more stress on them,
as we move forward. Well, it's certainly a holistic system that we need to think about, and it is a combination of genetics, nutrition, and vaccines, and having the tools in the toolbox.
Being where it should be.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the insights you've provided. I think there's some really practical advice that we can take and use in improving our operations. So thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks
for having us.
To find out more about biomass and other topics related to animal health and nutrition, visit the website bio-moss.com. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll head to the demonstration arena for some tips on low-stress cattle handling that are sure to provide a positive impact on your operation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What does it mean to be dependable? It means you do what you say you'll do time and time again. Because performance isn't optional, and your task is essential. For over 95 years, we have proven ourselves to be the most dependable choice. That's why the cattlemen of this great nation trust Ritchie to provide fresh water on demand. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American Cattlemen since 1921.
Say goodbye to your toughest pasture and rangeland weeds for good. Because one product offers season-long control, handles the widest spectrum of broadleaf weeds, and clears the way for increased forage with greater grazing flexibility. So you get more beef per acre at a cost that can't be beat. It's Grazon Next HL herbicide, and if it's in your pastures, plain and simple, weeds won't be.
Welcome back. Safe and effective cattle handling can lower the risk of injury and improve performance. That's two things that can have a major impact on your bottom line. Let's toss it over to Russell Nemitz for more on this important topic.
All right, thanks a lot, Kevin. You know, one of the cool things here at the Cattle Industry Convention's NCBA trade show is the stockmanship and stewardship program and the live cattle demonstration area on the trade show floor. And with us, of course, is one of this year's presenters, Ron Gill from Texas A&M University. And let's talk a little bit about what you guys were doing at the trade show this year in Nashville.
Well, we're doing several things. One, trying to talk just about the overall importance of stockmanship and its role in quality assurance, role in consumer confidence in our product, as well as in safety and working conditions at the farm and ranch level as well. But then how that also translates into a better beef product when it's all over.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great program, the Stockmanship and Stewardship program that's sponsored by the NCBA, the Beef Checkoff, Beef Quality Assurance, and of course our friends at Beringer Ingelheim. You know, for producers out there, what are some of the benefits of implementing some of these new techniques and practices?
Well, really there's nothing new in all of this. A lot of it's a lot of things that we've known for a long time. Maybe we haven't figured out how to implement them on our place yet. But what we're trying to do is basically teach the principles of good stockmanship. What people have to do then is use this demonstration area as a launching point for them to go home and try to learn how to do some things a little different and maybe improve the way they handle their cattle. Some people do a great job, some have room for improvement. We all have room for improvement if we're just honest, but just trying to incorporate some things that don't cost us any money, but then we can see an economic benefit from implementing them.
You know, you and I were talking before we actually got started with the interview that these new practices and techniques, they handle a couple different things, from not just the stock handling themselves, but we also can't forget about chute side techniques and practices.
Right. And to really implement the quality assurance things and the way we process cattle, if they won't flow through a system correctly or smoothly, we wind up putting more stress on them. And that creates an issue where they can't respond as well to the vaccines we give them. That leads to an increased chance of sickness and treatment and all the things we're trying to avoid. So it all starts with stockmanship, teaching those cattle how to respond to pressure, work through a system, and then they'll actually respond to our animal health products much better. And that preventative strategy is what we're all after anyway. And so stockmanship fits directly into a preventative herd health strategy.
You know, my next question to you is, a lot of us sometimes get set in our ways. Some people have been doing this for a lot of years. Some people are new to the beef cattle industry. Regardless, we all pick up a few bad habits along the way. In your teachings and through demonstrations like this, are cattlemen and cattlewomen receptive to maybe changing their bad habits, if you will?
Well, it all depends on the person, but I think the whole stockmanship movement, if you want to call it that, has gained quite a bit of momentum. It's a lot more in the conversation than it used to be. It's not some fringe thing that people are doing that are way out there. It's mainstream, and that's where we need to get it, to make it a center of the conversation, so anybody that may have a room for improvement can go somewhere, learn how to do things a little better, and make those fine-tune adjustments at home. And a lot of times that's all it is, just some fine-tuning and really putting a focus on trying to do things a little different, if that adds speed and money in their pocket.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I know a lot of folks are wondering, if we implement things like stockmanship and stewardship on our ranch, does it pay in the long run?
Absolutely, it pays in several different ways as well. The whole issue of injury, we underestimate the value of slowing down enough to get things done correctly. We're not talking about working cattle slow, so we're not changing the speed of processing. What we're trying to do is make it safer, make it easier to do. The other part of it, if the cattle are not stressed, they perform better. So we see an increase in conception rates, weaning weights, less sickness rate. Those are all the key performance indicators we have whether or not we make money in the cow business. So to me, it makes perfect sense to improve every little bit of stockmanship we can.
And last question before I let you go. I mean, stockmanship and stewardship is really what the consumer wants to know and wants to see from those food producers out there, including those who raise our beef.
Well, I agree that the stewardship is where they're going to see the focus. The stockmanship is how we deliver good stewardship on the livestock. And so we're good stewards of all of our resources, whether it be human capital, the animals, the natural resources we use to raise livestock. That's why it's a stockmanship and stewardship program. It's all interlinked, and we have to pay attention to all of it.
Ron, we appreciate you being with us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen again.
I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
All right, again, Ron Gill with Texas A&M University, one of this year's presenters here at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show in Nashville, Tennessee. Stay with us. We'll be back with more right after this.
Do you know all you need to about working cattle? Did you know there are proven methods that can reduce stress for the animals, for you, and for your crew? Learn from the experts who can help sharpen your stockmanship and stewardship skills. By attending a stockmanship and stewardship event, you'll learn proven ways to work cattle more efficiently, skills that can help put more money in your pocket. Find out more and locate a training session near you at the website stockmanshipandstewardship.org.
No storm is too powerful for new Purina Wind and Rain Storm Minerals, formulated with ultimate weather resistance. That means more minerals in the feeder and available to your cattle. Wind and Rain Storm Minerals provide more consistent intake and balanced mineral nutrition to optimize herd health and breedback rates. See the difference at your local Purina dealer or visit cattlenutrition.com. Wind and Rain Storm Minerals, another way Purina is building better cattle.
Welcome back to Cattlemen, where today we're talking about stockmanship and stewardship. And with us from the NCBA is their Beef Quality Assurance Associate Director. And Chase DeCoy is with us. Let's talk about this stockmanship and stewardship program, which is really gaining a lot of ground these days.
Yeah, certainly, Russell. With our partnership with Boehringer Ingelheim, NCBA has been able to expand and enhance the stockmanship and stewardship program. So we've been able to continue doing the same events that we've been doing for years and years, and cattlemen have come to adopt and love those events, and now we're able to expand those into multi-day regional events that we're really looking forward to presenting across the country.
What has been the response so far as you have some of these meetings, whether it be at the national convention or some on these regional levels?
Yeah, so obviously at our national cattle industry convention and NCBA trade show, we have the demonstration arena in the trade show, and that's really a flavor and a taste for attendees to understand what the stockmanship and stewardship program is and how those demonstrations work, and also get to know and meet our great clinicians, Kurt Pate and Ron Gill, who people across the country have come to love their style of stockmanship and low-stress cattle handling.
Well, as people can see in the background, I mean, folks are starting to fill in here for this particular one in Nashville. But, you know, as you kind of watch the crowd, gauge the crowd, can you see the interest growing?
Yeah, we certainly do. We're really excited to see the attendance at these grow, not just this year, but in future years, as we really promote these and get people to understand how low-stress stockmanship skills can really improve their bottom line and enhance their cattle operation.
And of course, as Chase mentioned, more and more of these regional stockmanship and stewardship programs are going to take place across the region. And for more information on when and where those are going to happen, you can always visit stockmanshipandstewardship.org. Now with us is Kurt Pate out of Rygate, Montana, another one of this year's presenters here at the NCBA Trade Show's Stockmanship and Stewardship Programs live demonstration area. And Kurt, for folks at home, maybe walk us through your part of the presentation here.
I've been doing them for a long time here, and so I'm kind of a traditional horseback guy. So a lot of mine are horseback focused and kind of traditional Western, and I think there's a place for that. But what I try to do in the presentation is not only do it cowboy, but something that everybody in the audience can use. So we might be using a horse, but we're trying to always focus on the cattle handling aspect of it.
You know, you mentioned it, you have been doing this for quite a few years now, and as you look around the crowd and as you study the crowd, obviously, it's the interest in this type of stockmanship is growing.
Absolutely. In the last 10 years, I see a lot of new faces, but I see a lot of young folks coming in. And I think the new people coming in, it's just a part of their culture. Where myself and the older generations, we had to change them. But it's like cell phones. Everybody, the young people, they just know how to work a cell phone because they've been doing it since that's all they've ever known. We old folks have to relearn it. So it's so nice to see these young folks come in that can just grasp it and go right on with it. You don't have to retrain anybody.
Absolutely. Now, maybe walk us through some of the benefits of this type of stockmanship and stewardship and how it plays a bigger and bigger role in today's U.S. beef cattle industry.
So to me, profit is a big factor. And I'm not afraid of profit. We have to have profit to be sustainable. And that's number one. Good stockmanship creates better profit. Quality of life for our animals, for ourselves, and for our industry. So to me, when we learn to work cattle properly or better, your crews work better, there's less injuries, safety becomes less of a factor. So that's number two. And then our industry is asking for it. Our consumer is asking for it, not the industry, our consumer. And if we don't provide them with what they want, we're in trouble. And so I think these young folks or anything we do, we have to portray to the consumer a positive way of working with our animals.
You know, like anything, it might take a little bit of practice before you really find true success at it. And I think another piece of advice for folks is don't give up if it's not successful the first or second time out of the chute, so to speak.
It's so important. And another thing with that, don't try to change too much too quick. I say cut what you're doing in half and try to change it half as much pressure. And then keep cutting that pressure down, and pretty soon then you'll start to understand it. But if you try to go from light to dark in one session, your cattle don't understand, you don't understand, your crew doesn't understand, and your neighbors probably won't understand, and everybody gets upset. So little changes for big results.
Yeah, and last question for you, Kurt. I mean, if at all possible, try to attend one of these demonstrations, whether it be here at the Cattle Industries Annual Convention, NCBA Trade Show, or maybe one that is coming a little bit closer to their own operation.
Stockmanship and stewardship should become a part of our life if we're in the beef business. Every thought we have is about how we take care of our animals, how we can improve our stockmanship. And I think that's just a great way to live.
Well, we appreciate you joining us again on Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Thank you, Russell.
All right, again, we've been visiting with Kurt Pate, one of this year's presenters here at the Cattle Industry Convention, NCBA Trade Show's Stockmanship and Stewardship Program live demonstration area. Kevin, with that, we'll go ahead and send it back to you.
Thanks, Russell. That was some valuable information. And to find out more about regional training events coming up this year, visit the website stockmanshipandstewardship.org. Don't go away. The cowboy poet Baxter Black is coming up next.
There is a new world out there, revealing itself in unpredictable ways. A world that demands more from the land and those who grow, farm, and build on it. This new world calls for the ingenuity to get more out of it, while preserving as much as we can. After all, to stay ahead of tomorrow, we need to be equipped for it today. New Holland, equipped for a new world.
Stay Tough fence will last 3 times longer and is 4 times stronger than low tensile fencing. High tensile wire, solid vertical stays, and tight fixed knots all provide superior strength. You will use fewer posts, saving time, labor, and money. Protect your investment for generations with Stay Tough Fence. Stay strong, stay tight, stay tough.
If you're allergic to progress, I'll catch you later. How important is it for your vaccine, medicine, and pour-on to be accurately administered? I mean, does a 376-pounder get the same medicine as a 400-pounder behind him? And how about your pour-on? Cows can easily differ 100 pounds. Tapari has a pistol grip that automatically calculates the specific doses. It's amazing. You betcha. Squeeze chute required. Check it out. Tapari.com. We know you're up before the dawn, because the cattle rise before the sun. And you spend long hours in the saddle because the herd isn't always over the next rise. And you care for the land because you know it takes care of your family. And we know you do great work. And it's time to tell that story to the marketplace. IMI Global is here to help you do just that. I consider myself as progressive as any horseman when it comes to considering techniques and devices for improving my horse's welfare or my own horsemanship. Humans have been riding horses for millennia, and everything we take for granted today was once the brainstorm of some Mongolian or some jolly old English horse trainer. I don't know, Cedric. When I heft me lance, it pulls me over and I fall off. Funny, Sir Lancelot. I was just reading in the Camelot Horseman about a new piece of gear invented by a team roper in western Wales. He called it a steer up. I'll check into it. You would think, after centuries of marketing geniuses trying to sell a horseman one more thing, they would have run out of ideas. But I must have 25 different versions of hoof picks laying around. I've bought stirrup swivels and metal Hondas, sweatless saddle pads, fly masks, cribbing devices, electric brands, magic minerals, and special concoctions of all kinds. My latest, a unique hoof support system for the farrier, horse owner, and veterinarian. A lightweight fiberglass unit with interchangeable foot cradle and straight post. It has magnets to hold hoof rasps and nippers and clinchers. Actually, I like it. It replaces 3 hoof support systems that I'm using now, made of disc blades, 2-inch pipe, and tire tread. At a fair in Kanab, I bought a patented stirrup extender for my neighbor Jack. Now Jack's got a little age on him, and he's not of tall stature, so mounting involves parking his horse next to a cut bank or a water trough or a hay bale. So we installed the stirrup extender on his saddle, which lowers the left stirrup a full 3 inches with the push of a button. 3 days later, I asked Jack how his new stirrup extender was working. Great, he said, but there's one complication. I can get my foot in the stirrup okay, but when I try and swing my leg over the saddle, I fork too soon. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. We appreciate you being a part of our show. Want to rewatch an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen or catch up on anything you've missed? Then visit our YouTube page. You'll find replays of all of our shows filled with educational segments and producer profiles from around the country. It's also another chance to see Baxter Black. So check us out at youtube.com/Cattlemen to Cattlemen. We'll have more right after this.
No matter what job I've got to do, my John Deere 5E tractor can do it all. Whether I'm cutting, moving feed, or building a fence. Using my 5E means my work gets done faster at a price I can afford, and that works for me.
Forward. It's more than a direction. It's mandatory. Because the beef business rewards the progressive, the doers, the ones who know what it takes to go easy on cattle and never set them back. So set your eyes on the horizon, turn your back to the wind, and move your herd the only way you know. Forward. Vista Vaccines. Always ahead.
Saddle up and make your way to Denver, Colorado for the 2017 Cattle Industry Summer Business Meeting. This is your chance to stay up to date on beef industry trends and policies, meet with industry leadership and your fellow cattlemen and women. Plus, you'll get insights on hot topics at the Issues Forums. Mark your calendar for the 2017 Cattle Industry Summer Business Meeting, July 12th to the 15th in Denver. Find out more at beefusa.org.
It's time for one of my favorite segments, Legacy Photos, as we take a look at some amazing shots submitted from farming and ranching families from all across our country. Let's take a look. You can send us your own legacy photos by visiting our website at cattlemen.org. Include your ranch name, state, and hometown, and we may use them on a future episode. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here again next week, right here on RFD TV.